This is your friendly neighborhood PhD, and you're listening to the TyePod.
Well, hey, everybody. It's another episode of the TyePod. And today I'm joined by Cyndii, who is also the founder of the Chronic Illness Hotline. And that's getting ready to launch, I think, probably the end of this year or something.
Hopefully, as long as we can raise the money. That's our goal.
Right. Been looking forward to asking you, all about that and how you got it started, and then a little bit about you as well. So thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to start out with an icebreaker, and I'm curious, in your kind of health journey or just in life right now, is there a song that kind of resonates with you that you really like, or is there any particular one that's kind of stands out right now with you every day?
Ooh, I'm such a it's gonna show. I get stuck on one song, so this is so perfect. Right now, I think with a lot of people, I get that song "Ordinary" stuck because it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is everywhere.
And that plays in my head. But one of the ones that I go to when I work on hotline stuff is the throwback. And I hope I have the name of it wrong. I will butcher everything, but it's the "My Heart's a Stereo, It Beats for You."
Oh yeah, yeah.
Close, like Adam Levine.
Well, I think that was a Maroon 5 or maybe
Or
maybe it was a solo collaboration he did or something.
I'm not sure. It's it's old. If it throws back, and for some reason,
I like that.
I love the flow of it. That's kind of where I'm at right now. It changes up. It changes to all different stuff. But yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. No, those are both really good ones. That like kind of current and
throwback. Too, so the throwback.
So you gave me 2 for 1. That was really good. But no, I wanted to give you just a few minutes to kind of introduce you and kind of a short elevator style, intro about your story a little bit.
All right. Well, I am Cyndii, like you said. My background is in public health, and I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I lined my little stuffed animals up when I was a kid and played teacher. And so I took my public health degree into the classroom. I was a middle school health teacher. And then my health fell out from under me, and I lost my career. I lost my home. I lost everything because they weren't able to properly diagnose me. It took decades, and it kept changing and evolving. The treatments that they were doing based upon the wrong diagnosis caused horrific problems. And it really left me isolated, alone. I lost not only my professional network, but friends and family, and just became the most isolated that I think a lot of us in the chronic illness or pain community can kind of all understand, is that feeling of being alone, especially when you can't get answers. And then a few years ago, when my health kind of steadied out, I wanted to get back into public health. I wasn't going to return to the classroom, but to kind of get into public health and do something that could really help. And the idea of the hotline came to me, and we have been working to get it launched. It's a little bit more expensive than just the idea I had as I learn about all of that. But we're here, and we're hoping that we can get this vital resource out to the community.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it sounds like, it's something that will provide a lot of help to people. But I wanted to dig into just your story a little bit more first, as far as your health journey and diagnosis and everything, what was your experience with that? And what was the diagnosis, if, whatever you're comfortable sharing on that detail?
So I'm still kind of working through some of it behind the scenes on what it is. But I was diagnosed with rheumatological issues that turned out to not be the case. It took about 20 years from the onset of my issues. I slipped and fell at work, actually.
So that was kind of when it first started. That was
where it started having issues. I was having all these breathing issues. I was having all this pain, and they sent me to different physical therapies, and it just kept making it worse. And it became kind of it was my fault. I must not be doing what I say I'm doing. I must be lying. It couldn't possibly be wrong physical therapy, or couldn't possibly be, I'm having every adverse reaction to medications that they knew I should have. And once we finally, a few years ago, kind of dug into my entire medical history, we realized that there was complications during a surgery when I was I was a toddler, a very young child. And then as I started piecing things together, I was like, well, I always assumed that what I felt and what I experienced and how I was in the world was kind of how everyone was when things were achy, or you were tired more, or you had problems. I didn't know, because they had always been there since kind of when I remembered coming into being a person. So now that we've nailed all that down, being able to get a lot better progress and a lot better kind of being able to balance out what works for me and what doesn't, and still trying to, get all the pieces put back together, because it was 40 years of the things being wrong. And that definitely takes some unraveling.
Well, I was going to say, looking back all the way to surgery at that stage and connecting it, to a fall that you had to years later. I mean, that's quite a few different things that, probably happened between then. Was your health team, did it kind of evolve? Did you find a healthcare provider that really is helping you work through everything?
I have now finally.
Yeah.
We had a radical health clinic that is trauma informed based open near us, and it is
Interesting.
unbelievable. I know that they're kind of popping up more and more across the country as like a lot of practitioners step away from traditional models.
Okay, that's the first I've heard of it. Interesting.
Oh, it's amazing. And so that's kind of been the first place where they are like, you know, we understand why you're traumatized and why this needs more time. And prior to that, I really did have better experience in telemedicine and being able to kind of have one-on-one and see experts across the country. But man, some of my team in the beginning have definitely left me with scars.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And, you know, like you were mentioning misdiagnosis and trying treatments that obviously, if it was the wrong diagnosis, those treatments weren't going to do anything to help you. And maybe even the side effects would be worse, I imagine.
Yeah. And they were like newer treatments that they were coming. So they didn't even know and they didn't believe me. And then later, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. So I was just curious, though, the trauma informed, you know, facility that you're at now, do you feel like what makes it, you know, better necessarily than others?
Oh, well, so the practitioners that are there have gone the extra mile to make sure that they kind of understand the mental health aspects as the primary care physicians and the different physicians or and the nurse practitioners, the whole staff. And they're also radically honest about how awful our healthcare system is. So like one of my first meetings, like I kind of was like telling them a little bit and they were like, look, our healthcare system, it's not only broken, but it's violent. And I'm here to kind of be that intermediary between you and our healthcare system. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need 1 million of you doctors like you.
Exactly. I mean, like just the idea that there are medical professionals that acknowledge that the system is clearly not working, right?
Not only broken, but that it can easily kill you nowadays. Like that's something that I feel like a lot of people, maybe they do know that, but they won't say it because it could lead to malpractice. It could lead to me losing my... They're protecting themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when you consider that there's all these sort of competing interests going on too, like it's just the number of stories that you hear and people you talk to, you know, it's not one state, it's not one person. It's this like almost like an epidemic going on, you know, across.
I would totally agree. It is an epidemic. They say that Johns Hopkins did a study where, you know, they line up all the reasons that people die. And like, number 1 is cancer. I'm guessing, this is me just guessing. Number 2 is something else. And that number 3 is probably medical error, but we don't track that.
Right.
So we don't actually know, but it could be.
Honestly, we'd be alarmed probably to see the numbers on that.
We would. And that's probably why we don't. And I would love to see us track that or to push for laws that protect us better. Like I'm left completely like, because of so much that happened, because of malpractice and bad diagnosis, there's a lot of good doctors that are like, I'm sorry if I did something, it could ruin my license. I can't take you on.
Right. And so it's not always their fault necessarily too. Yeah. Well, it sounds like the ones you have now, though, actually have patient focused care. Like it's more empathetic on, you know, like more than just, I don't know, like a laboratory thing or just like you're a patient with a diagnosis, like a number or something, right? Like there's other things. Mental health obviously is a big one, but there's all these complicated factors that are layered into treatment and diagnosis and everything. So, I mean, that's the fact that they're at least considering that is a step in the right direction, I think.
It's amazing. And I hope that they're able to kind of expand. And I'm sure there are other places that are up and happening, especially as we have more and more, you know, like on Threads, we see a lot of medical practitioners who are like, I stepped away from the traditional model and I offer for patient care. Now it's a luxury sometimes to be able to afford that.
Right. I mean, then you're talking about, you know, insurance and healthcare funding, and that's a whole other mess. Yeah. So I'm curious, like when you were going, I mean, that's a lot to handle, like losing your job, you know, and your home, like everything that you lost at once, it's layers of trauma, really. So what was that like? Like, how did you sort of climb out of that to where you are now?
One of the best things is that, okay, so I have a master's of public health. And while I was in college, I studied resilience because I always wanted to make sure that when I got back into education or when I went into education and graduated, that's kind of like, I wanted to work within like behavioral management and being able to kind of make a difference in the lives of the kids that hate school or have had such a hard time that like school isn't their thing. And so that I always kind of credit is that like, I'm lucky in the sense that I was a little bit more protected. I already knew about post-traumatic stress disorder. I was able to read books at the clinical level. I was able to understand what I was going into when I did have access to therapy. I understood, you know, that I needed to sacrifice. I gave up a lot in my personal life just to be be able to maintain my sanity. Like I moved away from my support network just so that I wouldn't be homeless and I could afford a cheaper place to live. And I knew that I wanted to kind of hold on to a lot of my public health stuff. And so like for fun, I would just do seminars just to keep my brain on top, and to kind of make sure that like my self-care was well taken care of as best I could. A lot of like making sure I'm crying and writing out or talking out loud to myself. Well, or even just talking about it to myself, and to kind of like make sure that I wasn't building and making things worse.
At least you had a place to, like, an outlet to vent some of those feelings.
Being flexible. I say I went from like the most neurotic type A personality to like, I'm like the biggest type B. It's a big part of this blessing is that now I'm like, I don't care. I'm not dead. That's a great day. Let's just be flexible.
Totally agree with that style of thinking. Yeah, you quickly realize, to let some things go.
Like it was like, all right, I'm gonna come out of this my true self, which is like, whatever I've gone through, it makes me a better health educator. It means that I can give back to people. That, like the hotline is something that I'm like, even now, I'm like, I wish it was on so I could use it like right now. Like I need this. Let's get it done.
So you picked up and basically moved to a different location, and you said that you sort of left your current support system. Well, have you built a new support system like where you are now? What does that look like?
I have. There are a lot of internet friends. I think a lot of us end up that way.
Absolutely.
I met them in like chronic illness or healthcare gripe groups or chronic pain, like all these different groups. A lot of them, I know some of the younger audience will make fun of me, but on Facebook. I
know. Hey,
that's where we all started.
And connecting. Or MySpace for some of us who are really going back.
I had MySpace. I wish I could see those pictures, but maybe not. But I like that group idea. And those are actually some of the people that are closest and helping with the hotline, are people that I made friends with online. I have, local friends. I have my partner who's kind of entered into my life in the middle of this storm. And like close friends, but I do keep a smaller circle now. I find that like I don't have the energy. It means I'm less disappointed and when things need to change, but they're a strong and mighty team.
No, I agree with you though on, there's strength in a smaller team, it feels like, and that's something maybe that people don't realize at first, but if you have just a smaller inner circle, that's about all you need really.
And my kitties. I have 3 kitties.
That helps. Hey, that's a huge part of support.
Pets are amazing. They brighten your day.
So I wanted to ask you about the hotline actually. And so like what is the primary overall purpose, I guess, for for the hotline itself?
So a lot of communities have them. The veterans, LGBT, then we have our dedicated crisis and suicide hotlines. But you have like maternal health hotlines. There is a hotline for so many different communities out there. And here we are, one of the largest communities, because we will cover chronic illness, chronic pain, injuries, disability, and the neurodivergent community. That kind of like, as we had a pilot program, and we let people kind of self-identify if they thought that the hotline would be helpful for them. And, these different communities were like, no, I think that I get the idea that like, we might not have the same exact issue, but our lifestyles have taken a lot of the same hits. The grief that we feel and the loss of ourselves or the loss of lifestyle, kind of like is close enough, that we could be there. So we're hoping as we fundraise for this is to kind of be a catch-all. Our pilot program, we weren't quite sure what people would want to talk about. Would it be completely like medically based where they wanted to learn more about symptom management or talk about like specifics? But really we ended up on our little phrase, if it affects your life, it affects your health. And so like,
that's a good phrase.
Like people would text and say like, like for me, I might text and be like, I had plans with a friend today. We were just going to go to Starbucks, but they messaged me and said they have to reschedule. And I'm not mad at them, but man, I'm just so mad. I'm so mad. And it's like, because it reminds you that you've lost your independence. It reminds you that you had such a small social circle that when something like this happens, which is like you said, you're not mad at that person, but boy, that can trigger so much and remind you of what you lost. And so like the conversation's about Starbucks but it's an important conversation. Or having to complain about your roommate. You're not mad about your roommate, but you just need a space to complain about it, because if you bottled it up, it would explode.
Right. Well, it almost sounds like it's a resource to be therapeutic in some ways, to be able to reach out. And so is it text and call based? Like, what does it look?
We're going to start off text-based because that's where we started the pilot program. And that is where I'm best. And so like, as we can move out and hire people, because they kind of are they're very similar, but they're very different in the skills of conversation versus texting. And so like we would love to add that on text based, and then we want to be able to add calls, because we do, it's one of those things where like people are like, it would be easier for me if I could call, it would be easier for me if I could text. It's kind of like we just met in the middle and we're like, this is it.
Well, I mean, like, have you, like the variety of disability, that's something definitely like you're just building out from text to start. Yeah.
And getting our community's opinions on things is one of the things that like we want to hear.
What I was going to ask.
And that's part of why I wanted to do podcasts, is that we need people to be able to know, hey, we're here. We're on Instagram, we're on Threads, we're on Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn. And we would love to invite people to follow us. Not only does that help us by making it look like it's more needed by our community, especially when like corporations look to give donations, grant committees look to give donations, but we want to be able to collect data from people. And if we don't have a large following, then you hear from 3 people, well, that's not a good enough size.
Well, the sample size, I'm going to say,
is not working. We need to be able to kind of get all that information, because we want to build what's best for everyone. And it's going to take us time to build out. And like the more accessibility, I mean, that stuff costs money. Absolutely no problem. We want to fundraise it for it. We don't want to shortcut anything. We want all of it to be there. Yeah.
And I was going to ask you too, like, is there, through your experience and the people that are working with you on this, like what along the journey was there things you were finding that were missing from healthcare that this is going to provide? Like what makes it stand out, above like all the other like support groups online or anything like that?
Well, so when I love a good support group, like I said, met some great people. A lot of those conversations, some of the best support groups, like the hotline is kind of based on, I'm like, wow, I want the feeling of this group, the way that people stay positive and uplift each other. But you always have within the support group conversations is like, it's also about other people who are, like they're experiencing something similar, or they're being able to kind of share their experiences. And that's perfect. That's part of your overall support group. But being able to have a peer support specialist that is focusing 100% on you, being there to uplift you, they will remind you that I live a similar lifestyle, but they're not going to share their diagnosis. They're not going to share anything personal about them. It gives you kind of that intimate stranger feeling that allows you to open up more than you might on Facebook or in a support group, right? It's kind of this freedom of like
more of a one-on-one experience.
One-on-one experience. And it's not like just a friendship experience, which is wonderful, but you do have to give back to that other person. Whereas here, it's not. It's this own little special place that we really hope people will, kind of like, it's not for everyone. We won't be perfect, but
it has a feel of more of a therapeutic, like one-on-one interaction, like that's obviously something very different than a support group. So I'm curious, like when you envision someone coming in and, wanting to get help, is this going to be like a subscription they join, or like, what does it look like as far as them getting involved with it?
It will be completely free as far as like no sign up. You don't need to even tell us your name or any personal information.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You don't have to tell us a diagnosis. You don't have to prove anything. You just text the number.
Wow. That sounds nice.
Yep. And especially we understand that like some of that is really hard to talk about. I know I don't want to talk about it, and so like they have that anonymity and privacy. If they want, some people are like, hey, I'm Joe and I'm diagnosed with this, and they're very forward with it. Yeah. There's a lot of other people that are like, I'm struggling.
And they can share basically what level of information they want to.
What they want, what they need. Sometimes it's people saying, I'm having a bad day and I want to be distracted. Yeah. Okay. What do you want to talk about? Well, I'm excited for Bridgerton. Who's your favorite character? What's your favorite storyline? When we just talk about Bridgerton. But that's what you needed to get through whatever you're dealing with.
That's really cool that it's tailored to the individual then in that way.
Yep. It is tailored to the individual. And this is kind of like surprising, because people are like, oh, it wasn't what I expected, but like that's what we need. We need our own safe space that is there for whatever. And maybe you don't talk about anything serious for the first 5 conversations, but then eventually you might come around.
So are there considerations you have to make in like protecting, say they do give a lot of, information on specific diagnosis and their story, like is there something you have to do to make sure that's sort of protected?
Yes, and that is a big chunk of the money that we need to raise. That was part of where I was like, oh, this hotline will be, a few $1 million. And then I got into looking into data security and data management and all of that. And I was like, oh, this is slightly more expensive than I thought. But we're not cutting any corners. That's why we're not going to launch until we've raised that money. We're not going with the cheapest firm. We're going with the most trustworthy firm who can.
So you basically had to like look at someone you could outsource to help you with protecting. Yeah.
Data protection will definitely be outsourced to, a really well-trusted person, people, business that's all they do.
Well, that seems like a benefit to like something like social media, right? Where you have, if you put something out there, obviously, everyone's potentially going to see it. And you don't know if you're talking to a stranger or if it's an authentic personal ways. So I mean, the fact that that security is being brought in, I think, is a big advantage. It seems like
confidentiality, being able, and how your data is managed is kind of like your own control. Like you can say at the end of every conversation, I want this all deleted. That way you feel safe, but that does mean that you might have to repeat something. And for some people, they don't want to repeat it. They just want it to be in the file. It's already there. Like we have a special program for terminal texters because that language is much different and the support that they need is much different than someone that maybe, you know, has a diagnosis that may take a few years off their life. But it's a difference. So, you know, if someone will allow us to have their file marked with terminal, they don't have to mention it again unless they want to. But we know that, you know, oh, make sure you're being hopeful. Well, that's not that's gonna make them mad.
And again, that's tailored to the individual once again, right? Like that's a factor you need to consider. Is there an advocacy element to the hotline, like pushing for, you know, better healthcare options or spreading the trauma, you know, informed care, like you were talking about earlier?
Oh, it's almost like you can read my little brain. So I would love to launch this. I would love to get it up and running. I would love to have someone else come in as a CEO and let me step away to take our data and run it so that we can use it as an advocacy powerhouse, that we can show up and say, these are the top complaints. We are a voice in this, and we are voicing for every other nonprofit that's out there, and for our, you know, for our texters and for everyone in our community. I would love to have on my bucket list testifying before Congress to make things better, going to med schools and pitching courses for pre-med doctors. Like I would, you know, that doesn't happen in the first year that we're up and running, but my sights are set on, I got that set up, and now I'm going to go take the
and I mean,
that I have.
There's obvious gaps too in like the training for healthcare professionals a lot of the time, you know, in handling specific diagnoses. And like, you know, my case with muscular dystrophy, like there's very few people that understand, you know, what you need to be considerate about when you're working with somebody that has, you know, MD. So I mean, it's like there needs to be some way to.
Shouldn't be that hard. To be like, you should be kind to patients. Here's what you should think of. Here's
and that doesn't matter what
do.
The diagnosis is, the kindness, or at least the empathetic factor, you know. Well, that's interesting to think about all the directions you could potentially go. I'm curious, like from your standpoint, like, you know, you hear stories or you talk to other people about their health situations, and that's, I mean, that can be extremely heavy to take on with, you know, what you're dealing with. So like, how do you approach that on your side as far as like mental health and handling that?
Well, that is part of the reason we are paused. Our services are paused. Like we did the pilot program and it was one of those things where it was like, okay, we need to get the 5013 and being able to take donations set up appropriately, because we kind of just
and that's a process.
And we just kind of jumped in during the pandemic. We were like, okay, let's make sure that we provide our community with care that needs to happen. And so like there was a big gap between the close of the pilot program and I was like, I need a moment. Because the first 6 months I did everything myself. I took all the texts myself, and then I brought on other volunteers. We thought it'd only be a 3-month program because we thought the pandemic would only be 3 hard months.
Right. Yeah, that would have been nice.
And so it just kept going and going. But it was very, I mean, it drowned me. You know, like it was a good drowned and a bad drowned at the same time, because I was like, well, I'm definitely not alone.
Well, and maybe at times it was a distraction, you know, for yourself. But,
it was.
But then, you know, that amount of people, that's a lot.
Yeah. So, and now you'll see that like social media, I love it. I know that there's a great, easy way to grow our accounts by having engagement. And I'm like, I can't be a compassion counselor in our comments all day, every day, because it will sink my mental health. It's not possible. And so like we walk this kind of like tightrope of like, it's great for engagement and it's a great outlet for our community, but like we're not set up for that yet. And we will be, like, once we're up and running, like that's going to be a huge part, is that we understand that people are going to be very honest in the comments, and we love that. But the social media person will not be me. Right.
You know, and something like this, you know, it's going to take some time, and there's going to be kinks that have to be worked out, I would imagine, like, you know, just like that. And so like starting as a nonprofit, I know you have to register as a 501c3 and everything, but like what overall is that process? What is it like? I mean, I know there's quite a few different check boxes you have to have.
Yes. So that's a great question, because we are doing it in a way that maybe most of the public doesn't know, even though it's commonplace for nonprofits. So in the gap of, you know, space from our pilot program into going into a 501c3, I found out that you can apply to special programs and be under a wing of an already established nonprofit. And so you can start taking your own donations, which we have. And it's called a fiscal sponsorship.
Mhm.
And I found a firm that does not only do they just allow you to take donations, but they provide mentorship and they provide a lot of like back of office that we don't have right now. We can't
I've
afford.
never heard of that.
It also allows us, a lot of times we're going to be so expensive,
Yeah.
and we don't scale. It's not like we're just something where we're like, oh, we can only take a few people and then we grow a little bigger. Like we are all or nothing, because once that telephone number is out there, it's going to spread.
Then anybody's going to have it. Yeah.
Everyone's going to want to use this. It's going to be so popular, and I love that for us.
Yeah.
But so this allows us to apply a lot of grants, especially like government grants. You need 3 years and so much money already within your program. And so this, under our fiscal sponsorship, allows us to get into some of those bigger programs quicker.
Okay.
And you'll see, like, if you go on our website, it'll say donate to our project build. And that is the special project that we're under that other nonprofit.
Okay.
And as soon as we raise our startup costs, then we'll start applying for our own our own tax ID number, and we aren't going to stay there forever. But it is this amazing thing, especially we're like a tech startup that gets really expensive really quickly.
It sounds like almost a soft launch.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yep. It kind of gives us a lot of protection, because like any business, you just need to have all these insurance, board insurance, business insurance. It has all of that. The accounting, we don't have to pay or find someone to do the accounting for us. That is top priority when it comes to like tax, donations, and everything has to be done correctly in any business, but especially in our business. So to have all of that in place until we're able to get on our feet and be able to have salary, we were talking about the last one about the self-care. And a very important piece of what we're raising money for is that, like, we're asking everyone to work in their own trauma. This is everyone that's going to be like working, or at least at the peer counselor, has health issues, and all of these conversations could be especially triggering. And we want to make sure that they have, part of the benefits packet includes mental health money, includes, mental health days. Like, this is something, like, mental health is something we take very seriously, because I mean, like, your compassion counselor, that's what, like, we call the people that answer the texts. They have to be in the best case.
I was going to say, it goes both ways on that. Yeah. And that's, kind of a tangent, but like, in the medical industry, I think that's too often forgotten, that other side, nurses, doctors, anyone who's medical staff, like, they're going to be, on the receiving end of a lot of this. And it's like, you're not treating them as humans if you assume they're just like robots not being affected by it.
There were times where I would jump in to, like, I knew that one of my volunteers is on the clock during their lunch break at work. And I'm like, yo, you dip out. I'm going to take over this conversation. You go take the next 30 minutes to go for a walk, because you're going back to your real world.
Exactly.
And this was a very heavy conversation, and you can't just jump in and out and back and forth. Like, it will catch up with you later in life. Like, I hear a lot of nurses, like, a lot of the nurses, they retire, and then boom, it just hits them like a million miles an hour.
I can't even imagine. I mean, even thinking about specifically like the front lines with COVID when it was at its worst too. I have no idea.
Still, there's no time, and it's not taken seriously. Like, that's why, like, we call ourselves, we're going to be a luxury employer. We're not. We're going to be a normal employer. We're going to want to be able to give them the benefits that keeps them from losing their minds with this kind of stuff. It's hard work, and like, there's nothing wrong with, like you said, treating your employees like they're humans.
Right, because I mean that's a thread that kind of connects all of us, right? I mean, well, I think that's really cool though, that you were able to almost like go under the wing of a nonprofit that was already going. So you might have already mentioned, but do they provide like training or help, or like, here's like essential things you need to know to actually move on and run it yourself?
Yes. Yeah. They definitely want it. They're invested in making sure that their startups are successful. They provide some mentorship. They definitely can help walk through. They'll look over our paperwork before. They help with like grant management and stuff and opportunities. We've been really blessed. Ancora is the name of the firm that we went. Shout out to them.
Okay.
I mean, it is all on our website, because when you donate, your receipt is, thank you for donating to Project Build at Ancora. And so we have like a blurb there that like explains it, because still people are like, I don't understand. And I'm like, look,
you can see where
educated in public health and nonprofits, and I didn't hear about this. I heard about it in the Facebook group.
Wow, that's really interesting. Years ago, I had kind of done some business classes and explored like what it took to start a nonprofit in a 501c3, and and it was this extremely daunting, involved process. And so like finding out about this option, I could see a lot of people being interested in that, and utilizing that resource.
Especially as like, things become more and more expensive. It's such a great way to be able to do it. It's so and starting any business is so much work, but like a nonprofit is so much work.
It's heavily involved. Yeah.
Heavily involved. And so people are like, oh, just do this. I'm like, I'll add it to my million.
To your list.
Yeah. My list of a million things I'm doing.
Well, I'm curious if there's any like one or two stories you can share of like someone that you visited with on the hotline. That's obviously, if it's, if you feel comfortable sharing, but like, have there been some like aha cases where it's like, oh, wow, this is really going to help, provide something for somebody.
So I will say kind of more of what proves it is that so all of the volunteers that took the compassion counselors were self-identified as a member of one of the 5 communities that we served, if not all of them or more. And when we finally paused the project, a chunk of them were future genetic counselors, which was not a field when I was in college, but it was a new field. And like they're going in to be medical practitioners that help with all of the disorders that are within your genes. And they are amazing. And they all sent, like I asked them to kind of debrief now that we've spoken to all these people. They were like, I'm literally pausing school because this has changed how I will be a practitioner. This has changed. It changed me. It changed all of us that were involved with this. We jumped in and we kind of thought we knew what to expect, but we didn't realize how powerful peer support would be. We were like, we just want to be there. People are scared. It's the pandemic. We know that this is needed because there's all these other hotlines, but to actually see that, like, it gave people the confidence to schedule a doctor's appointment they had been putting off. It gave people the confidence to take their medication on time more often. It literally was bringing down the number of trips that they would have usually taken to the ER because they let things get catastrophic. But instead,
let things build up. Yeah.
They didn't need to. They practiced with us on what they were going to say to doctors. We had people practicing with us on how they were going to go to their HR to be able to get accessibility that they needed, that they had never spoken up before because they didn't have anyone standing behind them.
And when you have all those like stress points, it's easy to, write them off or ignore them and be like, no, I'll deal with that later. But that's not always how it works.
We were like, we just need to be there for somebody. But then it was like, we can see people putting pieces together in their life that they had thought that they needed to abandon. And, it didn't always work that way. You also had people that, it was like, I lost my health insurance. I can't pay my rent. My phone's going to get cut off. Like, seeing the loss that happens was horrible. But to see people be able to say, oh, my therapist told me to text you guys in between. And then they were like getting more out of each appointment because they weren't coming in as drowned, from not talking about stuff.
And these are like such complicated, like a hierarchy of stress and trauma, like how one person can't be expected to handle and process all of that on their own. I mean, that kind of help and resource, I think is really important, and I know from my own perspective, I let my gallbladder situation get to the point of it was almost, basically septic at the time that I went into the ICU and had to have it removed and all this, like I can think years back where there were signs that, I should have went in and kind of checked, but because of worrying and busyness and all that stuff, it's easy to
put it off,
put it on the back burner, and then it's going to catch up. So, but no, this sounds really good. And I'm looking forward to, seeing where it goes, and hopefully it'll, launch full speed at the end of the year. But how can people kind of, access, you mentioned a website and everything, like, how can people find out more about, what's going on and how they can get involved with it?
So the Chronic Illness Hotline.org is our website. And there's tons of information on there, more information about the pilot program I was talking about. We have a blog that's up there with kind of more information. We're at the stage where kind of we just need help spreading the word that we're doing this, that we're putting this together. If people can donate, and this is a cause that they want to get behind, it's an amazing feeling to be kind of part of the foundation of getting this off the ground. If you can't, we totally understand that 100%. But there are ways that you can help amplifying our social media, saying, posting in your support group, hey, did you guys know about this? They're on Facebook too. Or, hey, my Instagram story, I heard about this cool new project and I want to make sure you all know about them. Making sure that if you see one of our health or one of our posts on social media, especially ones that are talking about accepting donations and asking followers to donate, those are great to hit repost or even just drop a little comment to help us in the algorithm. Because if you mention fundraising or donation, they're like, don't show anyone.
Right.
So amplifying those posts help. Following our social media and kind of like more of a long haul. Like, can you commit for the next 6 months to check in on our social media every once in a while and share something? That will make a big, huge difference for us. Just being able to reach new donors, people finding out about us. We are not necessarily taking on more, just like a large spread of volunteers right now. We're at capacity, which is hopefully
that's a good sign, I would think.
We're right. So we just, our next fundraising goal, when we hit that, we'll be able to open up any just a team of volunteers that want to get in on helping our kind of fundraising team more closely. But we do have space for anyone that is a grant writer or a professional fundraiser who would love to do an in-kind donation where they give a little bit of time and just kind of give us some basic education or a little bit here or there, that is where we're kind of hoping to pick that up, and jump to the next step, raise $10,000 and raise 50,000 and just
those grant
jumps.
applications are a little bit involved too. So it's like it's an artwork in its own.
I like the artwork. That is exactly like I can write. I have the background in public health, but it is its own beast that if you're not working in it 24/7, you don't know what language is in and what language is out. And so I respect that. I respect you, grant writers. Come help.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll sure be putting out, the word on how people can get access to the hotline and support it and everything. And, I'm really glad that you shared, the mission and everything. Looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Thank you. And one little thing we didn't touch on is we also want to have the biggest resource database out there. We want to be able to say to someone, hey, here's 4 nonprofits that do great things in your community. Here's 4 nonprofits that are within the diagnosis that you told us about.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's like in each area. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. In each area. So like we have the kind of like conversation style that anyone can use anytime. But then we'll also have like, if you don't want to talk to us just for conversation, but you would like to know a little bit more in depth than like obviously Google, but like when you're in it and it's a new diagnosis or even an older diagnosis and you've run through who you found on Google, it's nice to know that we're out there and we have a department that's constantly vetting and looking for and keeping track of what nonprofits or community programs are already out there. Especially, I know financial aid, the ones that do that for anyone are the ones that we try to keep at the top of our
list.
If
there are resources available to maybe apply to get help with whatever your needs are in that diagnosis, maybe that's something to include.
So that's what we're hoping, that it can be kind of like, we want to kind of be the community center. We don't need to do everything at the hotline, but we want to be there to say like, hey, there's this, there's that, there's, you can't pay your power
direction.
Yeah, like you can't pay your power bill because you've had to pay for these medications. Here's somebody that hopefully can help.
Maybe here's some emergency funding that you can apply for or something.
Apply for. Yeah, that was my big thing, is that like I didn't even know what I needed during the work.
See,
I didn't even know what to ask. And so to have and so to have kind of a guided conversation where it kind of, you mentioned that you're struggling with your phone bill, and we can say, hey, this nonprofit, we don't know if you'll get it, but here's the application. You want to talk through it right now? Tell us what you want to write. We'll help you. We're there. So like, that's kind of like, it's a crazy idea that we're going to be like so big and kind of be able to be there for anything, but like, that's what it's needed.
Right. Well, I know that the need is definitely there, and it sounds like the snowball is starting to roll a little bit.